Yeah. Okay. So sorry, guys, for the breaking transmission for the very first production we're doing. Just had some very significant system glitch, but the big deal, the most important thing now is that we are live. We are live back again. So please let others know. Reach out to your friends. Let them know that we are back again. So this time around, we're not going to be playing the video of Ishita, but we're going to upload it on our platform, so you'll be able to see it on the platform. And we'll not be playing the video right now. But I'm going to talk about it, the insights from it. We'll be sharing the insight from it, and then we'll be able to talk about the lessons we need to learn from it. You watch it, and by the time you watch it, it's going to, I think, deepen the process for you. That's exactly why we had earlier talked about what video we are going to be focusing on this time around, so you're able to know what we are focusing on and see how important that could be. um, Knowing that would affect how you would be able to participate in the conversation of today. For the sake of technology and technical issues, we just have to go ahead with the conversation proper, and I hope you gain value from it. So Ishita happens to be a 20-year-old lady as at when she made that gave that TED talk, and that was TEDx Youth. That was TEDx Youth, and it was such a very important conversation. I found it to be a very important conversation, not necessarily because of how young she was when she gave that, but because of the conversations around that, because of the kind of information she shared in this particular TEDx um, talking about the power of community, how you create an inclusive world by building community. Some very very important things she shared are the things I think we want to want to narrow down today, and have to see how it impacts us and how it can help us to start doing something very important at the moment. Okay, so if there are people who are supposed to be here, let them know. If there are people who are supposed to be here, please, I want us to share and subscribe to the YouTube channel before I go into the sharing of the insights. Because of the technical glitch, we had a lot of persons dropped off and they could not continue because they didn't they had seen the previous link. So please help us share this link, let people see this link, and let people join right now so we can have more persons joining. Let people know that we are up. Let them know we are up. Let them know we are up, so that they can be able to join immediately. They can be able to join immediately. Okay. So remember, we're talking about the power of community, the power of community, the power of community, creating an inclusive world, creating an inclusive world. That's the TEDx talk that was given by Ichita of community. Yeah. So please let people know that we are live. Share the new link so more persons know and join. In less than 30 minutes, we'll be done with this section because of time. And I'm sure you're going to get a whole lot of value from what we'll be talking about. The power of community, creating an inclusive community, creating an inclusive world, creating an inclusive world. Okay, so I want to believe that most of us are already here and a lot more. Okay, I see a lot more persons are joining. That's beautiful and that's very, very powerful. Thank you very much, guys, for joining so far. The Power of Community, creating an inclusive world by Ishita Mann. So let's go ahead with the conversation. So Ishita talked about, first of all, she started talking about a camping experience and asked for people who have attended camps and who have been in camp meetings or had camping experiences, either as young persons, adults, and all that. And a lot of persons indicated that they've been at that phase of their life, and it was so beautiful, right? But she drew out lessons from this, and she said there are key things that we experience from life in the camp. When you build a community, when you get for camps, you meet new persons. You see people who are as interested as you are in that particular reason why you guys are coming for camps. And I can easily relate to this. I happen to be someone that belongs to different organizations and groups where we have different camps. Like religiously, we have camp meetings like April camps, December camps. When it comes to professionally, I also belong to a professional organization where we also usually have conferences, which can almost be akin to such camps. I belong to organizations where we have retreats, more like camping meetings, retreats where we re-strategize and draw up plans for the next phase of whatever we want to do, because it's very important to find time to connect with people who are working together with you, people whom you want to achieve a particular goal together with. Do you understand? Yeah. So, and in talking about that and getting the best from such community, such camp meetings, and ensuring that we are able to build an inclusive world when we meet people at those points, she talked about three key things, and I found it very, very profound. And you should find it very, very important too. Three key things. Now, what are these three key things? First of all, she talked about acknowledging your innate scarcity mindset. When we talk about acknowledging your innate scarcity mindset, she explained how this really, really matters if we are going to make a difference and we are going to inspire the world on a larger scale. Why? Because the average human being has a scarcity mindset. This is a mindset that makes people almost feel that life is a zero sum game. What do I mean by a zero sum game? Like it makes you feel that we cannot have mutual benefit. That for you to do good for one person, you have to do your it would be at the expense of doing good for somebody else, right? Where people think, for me to get promoted, it means somebody else is going to be demoted. For me to make progress, it means somebody else is going to retrogress. When you're thinking life is a zero sum game, that is a one minus one, like plus one minus one, that we cannot have a plus one. That's a scarcity mindset. It's a mindset that makes you feel that everything is very, very limited, and if you can get it, grab it and run with it and make sure nobody else gets it. The problem with this mindset is that it's limiting. It also boxes us into thinking that we cannot have what others have had or have been able to achieve. Because at the point you believe that life is a zero sum game, that only one person can get it and no other person can get it, it means once you've seen somebody becoming a billionaire, you don't have the incentive to aspire to become a billionaire, right? And you see why that is bad? Because it kills your ability to aspire to become what you can be. And it's not true, because that's why we have 10 billionaires, 11 billionaires, many persons doing one thing. But the normal random personality and the low thinking persona would always make you think that that's how the world is, that we cannot have a morally inclusive society. So, what do we pick from that particular lesson? Something profound we pick from that particular lesson is this: if you are going to be someone that's going to make a difference in your life and impact and inspire people around you, you must learn to, first of all, have a personal reflection about what life really is about how important you are in the grand scheme of things, but more importantly, how every other person around you, how important every other person around you also is in becoming what you want to become and in building a better world. So, personal reflection is the first thing you need to achieve in order to attain or deal with an innate scarcity mindset. You must personally reflect on the abundance that exists and the possibilities of mutual benefit that both you and the people you're trying to serve can benefit a lot from whatever you're bringing to the table. You mean I've been at places, events where opportunities come out, and I'm trying to nominate someone else for it. So somebody like, why don't you take it up? Why don't you take it up? Take it up. Like this is not gonna come again. It's not, guys. But I gotta tell myself, it's not necessarily just about me. It's not scarce. There's going to be a lot of opportunities. There's going to be a lot of privileges. And we must see life from that perspective. That everything is not so boxed up that only you have the ability to achieve it. And once you've achieved it, no other person can achieve it. But you must start seeing life as a game that has different mutual benefits for several other persons playing this game with you. The second thing Ishita talked about in this speech was when she made mention of the need, okay, still within that first, you talked about the need to embrace diversity. Because when we learn to embrace diversity, then we can learn collaboration. You must learn to understand that the young person around you, the old person around you, the Igbo, the Hausa, the Yoruba, the person of color, the person of non-color, the person of white or whatever indices of racial coloration the person has, that these persons can add value to whatever you're doing. If we don't start thinking in the area of diversity, we are likely not going to be able to inspire the world or create the positive or enjoy the positive power of community. Think about it this way. If you happen to be a Nigerian student in Nigeria University, and probably you happen to be staying in the southeastern part of Nigeria, likelihood or chances are that when you have someone who happens to be maybe a Muslim or someone from the northern part of the country in your institution or in your class, you're almost always going to want to think, they don't like academics, they don't like books, so you may not be smart and all that, right? That is you intent, that's you bringing about in exclusivity, forgetting the possibility of the reality of such a person being smarter than even yourself. That is you almost creating a level of exclusionary principle about this kind of persons. And the problem with that is the great graces and amazing opportunities that could have come with a unique communication with such persons, you would miss out on it because you've already made a conclusion about their life. And this usually comes from a scarcity mindset when you now start feeling that the good persons are very scarce and it's only you that is good, and every other person that is not like you is not going to be intelligent or able to do whatever you are doing again. And that is bad. I hope you're gaining something. I hope you're learning from this. So the second conversation there and point you talked about was embracing an abundant mindset. You see, if you're going to replace, if you identify and acknowledge your innate scarcity mindset, the best way to deal with it is to replace it with an abundant mindset. Okay, an abundant mindset, because a whole lot of things we do, everything is about the mind. You know, it reminds me of a book she talked about, the book The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. That was the first place we talked about the whole idea of the abundance mindset. The abundance mindset is so powerful because it attracts abundance to you, one, and it makes you very much relevant to your environment. I will explain these two things. First of all, it attracts abundance to you because when you have an understanding that there is a lot more coming your way, then you're going to have the inkling and the insight for several things that exist within you that people with a limited mindset are not going to have. And it's going to affect the way you start thinking about the possibilities that exist. Let me give you an example. By the time you become a person of abundant mindset, believing that you deserve and that there's a whole lot of resources out there that can sponsor the dreams you have, even when your bank account doesn't necessarily say so or prove that, the existence of that mindset does one thing. There's something we call neuroplasticity, a situation whereby the mind, the brain starts creating neural pathways that bring that new neural pathways than what already exists as a result of what new things you're training and feeding the mind with. Okay, so the beautiful thing about an abundant mindset is that it stifles things like poverty of the mind, even if in your pocket you don't have the money. But what's beautiful about stifling poverty of the mind is that it gives room to abundance of the pulse. So when there is an abundance in your mind, it expresses itself in the kind of conversations you have, in the kind of people you see, in the kind of places you go, in the kind of things you do, and in the ways you approach life. And when you start approaching life from the perspective of an abundance mindset, you start seeing the need to create opportunities for others. You start seeing the need to come together and build strong communities that are solving problems of people. You see, the idea of an abundant mindset or the power of an abundant mindset in community, in creating an inclusive world, is such that it helps you to find people who are willing to sponsor what you're doing. But more importantly, it also helps you to aggregate funds because you believe fund is enough and that the fund that exists can be able to be utilized effectively to solve problems. When you have an abundant mindset, you don't think twice about solving community problems. And that's going to be leading to the third thing, right? You don't think twice about the need to solve community problems. You don't say, the only thing I have is just $1,000 and that's the only thing I have. I have to keep it. I'm not going to use it to solve anything. And there's a problem around you when you can even bring out $1. You get somebody else to bring $1, get another person to bring $1. Abundant mindset helps you to see the need to aggregate and work together for the good of a community. And you see, the truth is, we have abundant mindset and we form this mindset by being in powerful communities of people who think in the same way, community of people who understand life in this same perspective. And that's one of the power of communities. When you're with people who think problem solutions, when you're in the midst of people who think meeting generational challenges and nipping them at the bud, when you're in the midst of people who are passionate about making a difference with their life, just imagine the spark your life would bring to people who are waiting. These are the real things about TEDx talks. They expose your mind to possibilities and help you to start rethinking the thoughts you earlier had and start seeing life from the perspective of the reality of those who are telling their stories and how their lives changed. I remember listening to a TED talk early this morning while it was on transit from where I went to earlier this morning. And this lady was talking about communication and how she built the ability to communicate effectively because she joined a community. She joined a community of people who were able to inspire her to talk, to show forth, to try, and the ability and the inspiration to try got her thriving, right? The ability and the inspiration to try got her thriving. The truth is, when we are in the midst of people, we are able to draw strength from their abilities, their separate abilities that we do not have, and we are able to merge it together to become what we need to become and who we really can become. So we must start thinking about community. Community is powerful. Community is key. But remember, if you're going to be a very effective contributor to community, the first thing you need to do is what? Acknowledge your innate scarcity mindset through personal reflections and deal with it. Number two, embrace the abundance mindset by building yourself around and knowing that there's a lot more that can be gotten from what already exists. And you deserve a lot more than has come to you, and those much more will come to you if you keep doing what you're doing. Then let's talk about the third thing inside from Ishita's speech. The third thing Ishita talked about was leveling out the playing ground. Okay, how do we level out the playing ground? In all honesty, we don't have an equal access to some things. We don't all have equal access to things like technology. Some people are living within the first world countries, some are in the second world countries. We have people in the first world countries where they have more like producers of most of the technology stuff that exists. We have people in the third world countries who are predominantly consumers of tech that exist. So you see the level of access is very much different, right? That's the truth. But you see, we can level out the playing ground by reducing the difference between those who have and those who have not, by sharing what we have with those who do not have and collaborating with them on what they have so that everybody to an extent can have a level playing ground to make a difference and make an impact. And that is what happens in community. In communities, you bring people, you have people who come from different walks of life coming together to make ends meet, coming together to solve one problem or the other. She said something in that speech that was so amazing. She said, if you don't have access to the opportunities, create the opportunities. Think about it for a second. Create the opportunities. When it doesn't exist, do you just keep quiet and chicken and say, yeah, I don't have the opportunity, I beg, let me leave? How about you create the opportunity? How about you create the opportunity for people around you who need that kind of thing that you also need? They don't even have the level of access you have, yet you can use your access to create the opportunity for them, and gradually people come together to create a bigger opportunity that will give you greater access and make a lot more persons come into what you want. So I remember at a point where I needed access to leadership opportunities and leadership communities, but there was none that was necessarily around me where I was. What did I do? I had to start leveraging on the knowledge I already had, the books I had read, the people I have learned from conferences and notes I've taken from conferences. I had to start watching a lot of videos and learning a lot more. And what did I do? I had to create a community. I created a community where I now had to recruit friends that were around me, and we started going around reaching out to young people and teaching them the leadership that we really wanted, bigger opportunities and bigger platforms to learn. What's the beautiful thing about creating the opportunities you don't have? When you create the opportunities you don't have, you learn in the process of creating the opportunities what you would not even have learned if you had just embraced those opportunities. So it means you become a creator and not just a consumer, because you agreed to the necessity of creating the opportunities that don't exist. And the beautiful thing is this: by the time you've created the opportunity you really long for and others are getting access into it, you are empowered and you are qualified to gain access to some of the bigger platforms you really wanted to get into, but you are not there. Community can strengthen your abilities. Community can give you access. Community can help you to create an inclusive world. Community can help you to bring a lot more persons together to think, talk, act, and lean towards a particular direction. Something else she talked about is the truth that we all have a new perspective to add. So that person, that young person you think has nothing to offer, bring the person into the community. You can't tell what he learned yesterday night, right? That lady you think you've written off and there was nothing good about her all the while, bring her into the community. You can never tell what she can do. The person you think is differently challenged, physically disabled, and you think, what can this person do? Bring the person into your community. Remember, people who are physically challenged or differently challenged have a stronger sense, a stronger sixth sense than the one that replaces even the one they don't have. So, for instance, someone who is blind, they hear so well, they hear much more than you that is seeing and that is not mute or deaf. Right? Someone who is deaf and mute sees things in ways that a lot of persons who are not hearing, who can hear and not even being able to. But these persons have special abilities that exist within them and can also exist within you. So allow people to join communities. So far, at least, it's important we also talk about minimum thresholds to join some communities. There are communities you help, you create, and there should be a minimum threshold. At least, not people who want to pull down the community, but people who are passionate about making a difference in that community. We should be willing to allow such persons to join the community and thrive. Don't put up high barrier of entry and all that, especially when you want to bring significant change. Don't write people off. That's the key thing if you create an inclusive community. And you must understand one way we can also create inclusive communities by leveraging or leveling out the playing ground is by creating or interacting with policymakers. Sometimes you don't have access to government and you're not the governor, but you have access to these policymakers and you can talk to them, you can send them a note, you can do petitions that they're going to see and write stuff and send across to them. And that way you're creating an inclusive world by making sure your voice is heard. Sometimes all you need to do is to amplify the voice and the plight of those who are differently able, those who are vulnerable. That is a way to create a powerful community. Find people around you that have the ability and strength to work together with you in achieving the kind of things you want to do, or a problem you've seen that is existing. I'll give an instance. I remember sometime when I was in the university, doing that should be my second year in the university, first year in the university, thereabouts, first to second year in the university. At that time, I and my friend, who happens to be a very, very close friend of mine, you're going to be seeing him one of this time very, very soon. We saw a global problem that was necessarily becoming more painful, and a lot of persons were really talking about it. And we felt it's a problem and significant things are not necessarily being done. And that was the time when there was a whole lot around female genital mutilations and all that. We had to pick up that advocacy and we had to start having conversations. Like we had to meet um, archbishops of the Catholic diocese. We had to meet traditional leaders in communities where we had researched and we found out that FGM was prevalent in those places. We had to reach community members, local government councillors, local government chairmen, councillors of wards, and some of these people in order to engage in conversations with them. After we've had some meetings with people like midwives and doctors and some medical professionals, and we had to work with organizations that are into health related care and all that, in order to say we can become a voice for people who we are really being affected by this FGM. So the anti-female genital mutilation fight was something we really did. And honestly, it brought a whole lot of perspective to the pains the folks of female gender were passing through. And it caused a whole lot of policy change because it brought to a point where we had to do policy engagement, policy statements with very big governments like first world country government, the United States of America, even in Nigeria, and different organizations to revamp the policy and brought about a whole lot of changes by virtue of the little contributions different members of our community and extended communities were having. See, identify the problem in your community and see how you can solve that problem by being a voice for those who have that problem. Some people have the problem, but they don't have the voice. They have the problem and they have the voice. You don't have the problem, but you have the voice. Collaborate with them. There is strength in collaboration. That is you exhibiting the Igwebrike spirit, where you can collaborate with people to become a voice for the vulnerable. That's what we call grassroots activism. It's an interconnected world, friends. We must start thinking in an interconnected mannerism. We must start understanding how connected this world is and asking ourselves, what can I do? What can we do to make the world a better place? What can we do? What can I do to make the world a better place? You can't change the world all of a sudden. Take it or leave it. You can't change the world all of a sudden. But I can assure you, if you start building a community of intentional people who are willing to change the world, you can take a step today that would have a ripple effect and that can achieve that change you are looking at. Ishita says something while she was closing. Embrace your voice, embrace your power, and make inclusion a lived reality. These are things we can do, and these are things we advocate for at TEDxUmudike. These are things we want members of our community to think about, to prioritize, and to start seeing how they can work together to create communities that are solving global problems on a local scale and scaling their impact to the global stage. We are really looking forward to an interesting time at TEDxUmudike come 11th of October 2025. We can't wait to have you register and get to be part of this interesting conversation. You can see the ticket link scrolling down on the screen. Seller.com/TEDxUmudike. Get your tickets immediately. Very affordable tickets because we want you to be available. And remember, we have very limited slots because it's a standard event. Thank you so much for being available for today's Pre-TEDx conversation. I hope you learned something. If there are questions you have, please do well to drop it in the comment sections. I will promise you we will treat them. We will go through them. We're going to answer those questions. And the next TEDx conversation is going to be hotter and hotter and hotter than today's one. Thank you for being with us. See you at our next TEDx, pre-TEDx conversation for TEDxUmudike.